Thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of the Bloody Legends with Jai That Aussie Metal Guy and Jim Taylor. Make sure you're a bloody legend and hit that like and subscribe so you can keep up to date with all the great content from these bloody legends. G'day, how are you all going? It's time for another edition of the Bloody Legends with myself and my awesome co-host Jim Taylor, presented by Cranium Radio and Crannk.com. So tonight, wherever you are in the world, is a great pleasure that we're getting to have a chat with Brett Campbell of Pallbearer, who's due to release The Mind Burns Alive on May 17th. Couple of good albums. We just interviewed Ryan Waste, his album's dropping, the Bad album, and on the same day, dude, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, brother. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks.
Absolute pleasure, man. First off, dude, I know I interviewed you for the last album, Forgotten Days, which I am still absolutely fucking loving, dude. It's was a really, really great album. I know this one's been a few years in the making, dude. So tell us all about that process for you.
Well, you know, we were planning to record it in 2020, so it's been long in the making, but you know, the pandemic and everything, our plans got kind of sidelined, but it ended up being kind of a fortuitous in a weird way, if the pandemic can be called that, because it gave us this time to like really examine the songs and, you know, refine them, and it also allowed us to learn a lot about the engineering side of recording. So when it actually came around to be time to record it, we had a lot more know-how and were able to like capture the songs in a way that we'd never been able to before in the past. So it kind of worked.
We go as we had a little jump.
You froze for a second. Sorry, brother.
Okay. That's all right. That's all right. Did you get all that?
We certainly did. I jumped at the end. It definitely did kind of work, though, but it kind of would have been a kind of an infuriating process as well, with the world going the way it is, dude. Right. You know, at that point, it would have been like, fuck, this is kind of really pissing me off a bit. But then thinking about it,
it's a fucking nightmare.
And then, you know, thinking about it, going, man, I'm glad I kind of did have that time in the end to kind of work on these tracks and kind of, you know, fill them out a bit. But was there a point when you're like, man, I've just got to stop working on this?
Yeah.
I mean,
picking at it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, 5 years of working on the same songs is like way too long. I mean, I other shit in the same time, you know, but like we already decided this is what the album was going to be. And so like, of course, that was still like the main thing that we were focused on. And yeah, like we tried to record it again in 2022, and I got like COVID right when we had booked studio time. So I like truly felt like we were just, the album was like cursed, you know. But you know, eventually the third time's the charm, and we got it done. But yeah, it's the longest we've gone between albums, but it was kind of outside our control, unfortunately.
It was worth the wait. I mean, it's
Thanks,
fantastic. I actually listened to back to back your records today, and you guys, I've never been so fired up to hear riffs and like want to like kick things over, and then at the same time be so relaxed. I mean, it was, dude, it is true for me. It's like the natural progression of classical music. Like Beethoven for his time was heavy. I feel that's how you guys, but who influenced you guys? Because you're very distinctive, because you use a Telecaster. Am I wrong? For your live rig?
I used to years and years ago, but it turns out that they don't really work that well in drop A. They're not really made for that.
They're not made for that.
They sound good. Like, I liked the tones, but the more intricate our songs became, the harder it was to just keep everything in tune. So I still got that guitar, but I don't play it for this kind of stuff anymore. But I've been using a Reverend baritone for a while, which I really like.
Ooh, nice. That's fantastic. And who did you guys who influences? Where you guys coming from as
Oh
far as
yeah,
bands and composers?
man, it's all kinds of. I mean, uh, at this point, like I feel like a lot of what we do is sort of self-referential, and that we're trying to expand certain parts of our sound or like focus on it. Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
we kind of know what we, you know, what we can do and what we have done. But I mean, on this record, like there's more influence on, there's like a heavier influence from like the Red House Painters stuff, like the early, that
Ooh.
like 90s, like sadcore, slowcore,
Yes.
low, codeine, that kind of just bummer, quiet music.
Sad
But
rock.
also like, yeah, sad rock. Also like Talk, like the last two like Talk records,
Oh, cool.
this kind of intricate, kind of jazzy, soft, weird, freeform stuff. And
Yeah.
those Talk records are pretty loose and like actually jazzy, and that they were like improvised. I think a lot of it was, and obviously we don't do a whole lot of that, but yeah, like the sound and just the atmosphere of those records is pretty special.
Absolutely. But now that you say that, I hear that. No, it is. And the clarity you guys have um between the drums, between the vocals, between the guitar, between the bass. Just you can really tell how powerful of a band you guys really are. So
No,
cheers to
thanks,
you on
man.
that, man.
Appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Indeed.
Yeah, definitely, dude. Tell us a little bit about the opening single off of this, "Where the Light Fades," that people would have heard, man,
Mm.
because it's a ripper.
Man, it's well, it's a pretty subdued song by Pallbearer standards, it's a different kind of journey. It's our songs are known to contain a lot of different kind of sections, not and we don't always adhere to like a verse chorus sort of methodology, although we do sometimes. Uh so this song is, or Where the Light Fades, is kind of one of our, it's like a traditional pallbearer song in that it evolves gradually, but
Yep.
it doesn't like focus as much on the like bludgeoning as a lot of our material does, and kind of takes a step back for a more subtle approach.
Yeah, I think
Sure.
Joseph give it a good quote here off of him: "An exploration of fate when you are deceived by your own instincts and eternal voice." And something I love about you guys, when I kind of come across you for the interview Forgotten Days, and when I interviewed you, I think it was about 3 years ago we spoke, and the same thing then as with this album, there's always been this themes of mortality, this questioning of mortality, of emptiness, of loneliness. And I've we all have these moments where we feel that. And I listen to a Pallbearer album, and yeah, I have these moments, but as Jim said, it also makes you also want to go kick the bin too. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
does kind of
Yeah.
motivate you and inspire you. And kind of, I think since the 3 years we spoke, man, I fucking, that Forgotten Days album, like I know it took quite a few years to make this Mind Burns Alive, but that one was high on my rotation. So when I finally got to listen to this one, I've been same feeling I got from that album, I'm getting from this one. You know what I mean? And I've been questioning those themes myself, of mortality, of life, death. I've recently in remission now, Brett. I had stage 4 cancer last year, dude, and kind of overcame all that. And like I came
Oh,
back to
wow.
your album a lot through that, you know what I mean? With the quicksand of existing and tracks like that, kind of really, for some reason, I was drawn back to them and that album, and I feel like I'm really drawn to this one as well.
Wow, man, I'm sorry to hear that you went through that, but I'm glad that you're here with us, man. That's got to be tough thing to deal with. I can't imagine. But yeah, I'm glad you're still kicking. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of, okay, that's enough. My dog's crying. Uh,
Oh.
What do you mean?
yeah, we
Uh,
he went away. I've been doing interviews all day, so I haven't got to take him on a walk. But
uh,
I think like mortality is something that everybody reckons with on some level. At some
yeah.
point, you've got to consider it. It's, we're all going to
Right.
die at some point. And I think when we approach it, it's not really from the perspective of like, oh, doom and gloom, we're all gonna die, it's so sad. It's like kind of a, you are gonna die, so seize the day, and embrace the life that you have and don't waste it. Like it's all you've got. So do something cool with it.
That's beautiful. Yeah. No, that's sage advice, man.
It
I
is, and
love
that's
it.
what I get from Pallbearer's music.
Yeah.
It's what I've got from all
Yeah.
your albums. It's what I got from this as well. You have these somber moments, but it's also, as you said, you approach and you face death. You can't face death and talk about death and not, I don't know, come out of that wanting to seize the day, as you said. You know what I mean? Get something out of it, so it isn't just all doom and gloom.
Yeah, totally, man.
Have you got any more singles dropping before this album drops, man, next week? Or
Yeah, I think I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, going to be a day of single. We're putting out the title track, and it's got a video too that we're kind of still in the process of editing.
Nice.
We're working with the guy that filmed it to edit it. But yeah, it's very different than the other two videos. I hope it turns out cool. I think there's good potential to be cool. But yeah, that's the title track. It's pretty different from the two singles we've put out so far too. So I'm excited for people to hear it, and also along with the rest of the album. After the beginnings of these songs were 2019, so like
Wow.
I'm so ready. Like it's a week away now, and I'm just I'm so excited to get it out.
On pins and needles, dude, I'm sure. Oh,
For real, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, well, you would have started
So
kind
that-
of works almost straight after the Forgotten Days album, yeah?
Well, it was like concurrent. We wrote a lot of the material at the same time, but it's so different than the Forgotten Days stuff. We kind of just like separated them into two obvious groups of songs. It's like, the Forgotten Days songs, most of those songs would not fit on this album, and vice versa. So when we were writing, we're like, well, this is two distinct groups of material. Let's like hone in on the aspects that make them distinct. So like Forgotten Days is
Right.
like a riff fest, and this is like focused more on the negative space rather than like
right.
the heavy elements. Although there's still tons of heavy shit, of course. But so yeah,
It's
originally we were gonna
atmospheric, though.
yes, that's it, atmosphere.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
No, you're all good, man. Yeah, but we were gonna record like in 2020 and just kind of surprise release this album without any like press, like any announcement. But that obviously didn't happen. So
right.
now it's 5 years later.
Yeah, and have you got? I got to ask about live shows. Have you got some live shows coming up? You want to plug what's happening there, mate?
Yeah, we're doing North American stuff through like August, and then we're leaving in June, and then we've got 2 legs with a break in the middle, but I think we're done in like August, and then it's not yet announced, but it's about to be, I think, Monday. We're doing Europe in the fall, and as far as I know, this hasn't been actually planned yet, but we will be definitely coming to Australia, or probably early next year, probably spring or something like that, or our spring. I don't know what it would be over there. Sometime early next year, probably.
That'd be super cool because you didn't even
Right.
get a chance to get over here with the last album, did you? So
Yeah, we hardly tour. I mean, we kind of belatedly toured. I mean,
the
we've
world
done
went to
some
the world
short
went to
tours,
shit.
but
I think not long after
Yeah.
we fucking spoke. I think kind of like
Oh,
just everything closed down.
we were just like, I guess we got to release it anyway. Like we released it in the middle of like the pandemic. We're like, well, it's
Right.
ready. I mean, like, we got to put it out. But yeah, we never really got to. I mean, we've toured, but is it a Forgotten Days tour at this point? It's just just touring. So I feel like you have to tour like within a few months of the release for it to count.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's a
tour
Pallbearer
for an
fucking
album,
tour.
so-
Get onto it. That's all I need to know.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. Tell us a little bit about the closer track on the album, man. I'm glad I don't pick singles because I just choose the big
Yeah.
bloody epics for everyone to listen to.
Oh no, I would have picked that one. That's like
Nice.
12-minute singles are kind of a hard sell. But the that was that one that's your classic Pallbearer style, long, winding, multi movement sort of piece.
Mm.
Um, I feel like there's some, I mean, particularly like Devin's vocals at the end. I think that makes that one stand out because in the demo version that I'd made, like just to show the guys the song, um, I tried to kind of push my vocals at the end into a kind of raunchier, you know,
Mm.
like sort of sound, but my voice just isn't really naturally like that. It always it was cool, but when we were recording, I was like, this needs something more. And Devin has this just absolute wall shaking bellow, and he lives like 10 houses down from me, so I called him and he came over. I was like, dude, you got to do some vocals here at the end, and we were recording it in my tiny room, standing shoulder to shoulder with him. He had headphones on and just unleashed these fucking screams. And it was so
Yeah.
intense. Just standing right next to him, it made me almost start to laugh because I mean, I don't know if you've ever just stood in a dead silent room and had someone
Mhm.
scream at the top of their lungs right next to you. But it's a strange experience. So,
No
but
doubt.
it ended up being so fucking perfect for that part. And any chance to get some Devin vocals on there. It's cool. I think
Brilliant.
he has some secret screams throughout all of our some of our records, so it's good to get a not so secret one
That's
on
cool.
there.
Awesome.
Yes, it is really cool, man. Tell us a little bit about like kind of when you construct your albums, because that's one thing you
Yeah.
did mention Journey earlier on, and I thought that straight away because when I listen to your albums, I love going on a journey with you guys as well. And sometimes people forget
Same.
what a
Yeah.
joy it is to put on albums like yours, this one, Mine Burns Alive, that does take you on a journey, and it certainly did.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, like sequencing is always really important to us, like track sequencing. And we never really fully know what that will be until the songs are like done. Um,
Sure.
just because what you might think is going to be the definite lead song, maybe it doesn't work. I think from the inception of some of these songs, we had collectively thought that With Disease was going to be the first song because we thought that, that kind of intro that builds in the way it does. It's like, this is a cool way to kind of get dropped into an album. But, of course, ended up being the final track.
Slow burner.
And, uh, and Where the Light Fades, to me, I thought that would be somewhere in the middle, like kind of a break, you know. But when we actually had the recordings, we decided it would be a very different experience to start with Where the Light Fades and kind of establish to the listener that like, oh, this isn't your like typical intro to a metal album, like
No,
there's a lot of other kind of elements at play. So yeah,
it takes you on that hero's journey. I feel. I'm sorry, but like
totally, man.
there's
Yeah.
definitely that journey. It reminds me of the old if you remember a band called Fate's Warning.
Mhm.
They would do stuff like that where it was like a slow build and then it was chaos and then it went back out, and that's very cool that like you don't put on a Pallbearer album go let me start in the middle. At least I don't want to.
Yeah.
I want to start at one end and go to the tail of the dragon, so to speak. So
Yeah,
but
man.
yeah, so
Yeah, I'm not a shuffler either. I
very
don't
cool.
really ever listen to albums on shuffle.
Mm-mm.
I understand why somebody might do
No,
it, but like not for me. Yeah.
That's where I love the
no,
mediums and the vinyl. I do have to mention that as well because they look absolutely unreal. Like the mediums, like the vinyl. I think I did
indeed.
mention it last time we talked, where they kind of you get locked into this listening experience that people do, forget and neglect sometimes. And especially, with the headphones, you kind of get lost and you have these real moments of introspection. And again, I'm gonna reference your last albums. I was getting them through this album, and I'm definitely getting it through this. It just feels like, and you've almost picked it up, you know?
Hell yeah, man. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, there is something
Sure.
special about vinyl because it rewards like active listening, and our stuff is very geared towards active listening. Like really pay attention to what's going on. Like sure, it can exist in the background. You can
Yep.
just put it on while doing something else, but like if you do pay attention and really try to like exist in the sound world, there's a lot there. And particularly on this album, we got all kinds of like hidden layers that are just buried in the mix. Like the more you listen to it, the more you're gonna find little, sonic Easter eggs, you might say. And I
that's a
love
great
listening
way
to
to put it.
records that are like that you can just listen to over and over.
Well, that's the sign of a great record, isn't it? You still
doubt.
like we'd do it like growing up when we get into albums. We're like, man, I love this song, and then the
Right.
next week you're like, I'm liking this,
This-
and to
this
listen to
one,
the
this
whole
one,
album,
yeah.
you actually come across the deeper cuts. Where I feel like some of these streaming platforms, it's like, oh, that's the most listened to song, we'll listen to that. Whereas when you listen to the whole album, you have these deeper cuts which you're drawn to, like more than others one week than a different track the other.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's cool to have some form of like curation and stuff from time.
Yeah.
A playlist exists, I guess, for
I understand
I
it.
don't know most for that's a whole other conversation how those get picked or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think what makes part of what makes music so much fun as a fan is like the personal nature of it, and like your favorites can be yours and your favorite bands, and like that's stuff that you get to decide for yourself, and like it rewards like deep diving and finding weird records that from bands. They might have some famous records, but like how many other records have they put out that nobody talks about? And if you're a real fan, go explore them. There might be some cool shit that like is overlooked by a lot of folks.
And speaking of overlooked,
doubt.
it just came to me. People are forgetting memories. You know what I mean? Like, Brett, you chuck on an album, like I put on one of the old Ministry albums with the Psalm 69 the other week. I hadn't heard that, the whole album, since I was like fucking 17. And I put it on, and I immediately had this flood of memories and moments just through the fucking music as well.
That rules.
Yeah.
That's a great record.
Yeah, dude, isn't it?
Ministry's fucking sweet. Yeah.
But listening to those albums, you know what I mean? It kind of, you create these memories, and people don't realize, that listening to whole albums has this memory experience as well, dude. Speaking of albums, who done the album art for this one, man?
Oh yeah.
Encapsulates it.
It's a found what's the guy's name? It's a fine art. It's like a art piece that wasn't made for our record. It's something that we found, and it just felt like it fit the vibe.
Yeah.
Oh
definitely.
shit, what time is it? I have another interview like right now.
Okay, cheers, dude. We're gonna bounce.
You're okay.
Shit, I wish we could talk
We'll
longer.
bounce.
No, dude, absolute
Don't
pleasure.
worry, don't
Cheers,
worry.
Brett. Have a lovely evening. Good to catch up again, my friend. Thank you,
brother.
Cheers, brother.
Yeah, likewise, man. Hopefully see you soon.
Talk
Bye.
soon, brother.
Yes, sir.
Oi, you're tuned in to Jai That Aussie Metal Guy, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of his sick content. And remember, stay brutal, you legend.